Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Valaery Rose Show. I'm your host, Valaery Rose, and today's episode is going to be about leadership from microwave to slow cooker and why real influence can't be rushed. And my lovely friend, Misty Cota Maple, will be sharing this theory with us that she's been working on and giving us all the clarity. And she's also a returning guest. So if you remember her from the last episode she was here, which was episode 5, she shared with us a lot about her upbringing, her past experiences, and what shaped her to become the badass woman that she is today. So we are going to be building upon that episode. So if you want to learn more about her background aside from what she says today, please make sure to check out that previous episode, which is episode 5, and help me welcome my chingona friend, Misty Cota Maple. Welcome, girl. How are you feeling about being back here?
Oh, I'm so excited to be back here again. Thank you for having me
Yeah.
back, Valaery.
Of course. So update us. Have there been any changes in what it is that you're doing in life? How is business going? And we're just going to pretty much build on from where we last left off and you going into your new mindset and theory of the leadership from the microwave to the slow cooker, which I've been seeing on Instagram. And you even made a new page for that too, right?
I did. Yes.
Cool.
So thank you for bringing that up. So yes, it's been great since I've seen you. So 2026 started off with a bang this year. I actually I'm still in real estate. I actually switched offices from Whittier to Huntington Beach.
Okay.
And so new brokerage, new people, new systems, growth, and really just it's about a 5-minute commute versus a 2-hour commute. So I have a lot more time to dedicate to new projects and the framework that we're going to be speaking about today.
Nice. That's really amazing. And are you still catering to like clients all over Orange County, LA, IE, or is it primarily going to be OC based, just so that the audience knows?
Sure. Well, absolutely. I serve Southern California. So although my brokerage is in Huntington Beach, I help families throughout Southern California. Could be all as far as Riverside, through the coast, through LA. And
Nice.
so anywhere from new buyers, sellers, trade ups, and there's life situations that happen. Perhaps somebody that's going through a divorce situation, probates, trust. I consider myself an advisor and a consultant, and it's really important. And I'm there with you. So real estate is really a relationship business, and we're there for you through all those transitional times. And so it may be someone's first property and they're new buyers, but 5 years later, they're growing and they need something bigger. So, and I'm there for you every step of the way. So it's not just a one transaction type thing for me.
Yeah.
It's about being there, being present, and through those moments and your milestones.
That's amazing. Thank you for the clarity on that. Y'all, now you know where to get your real estate needs. Hit up Misty Cota Maple, which leads me to my friend. Before we jump into the leadership stuff, I know we talked about a lot of the challenges you experienced in life from growing up, latchkey kid, you taught me that term,
Yes.
and teen mom, living in the hood, kidnapping, and just the struggles that you've gone through as a woman. So now let's talk about what shaped you into this entrepreneurial person, especially like went into real estate and even other business endeavors that you have.
Thank you so much for bringing that to the table and allowing me to speak about my journey as well. So I appreciate having to be able to speak about my past. A lot of people see me. I've worked for the California Senate. I've worked in real estate. I look like a polished professional, and if you see my social media, I'm constantly trying to motivate and really and appearing polished, but I wanted your viewers to know about me more, about what it took for me to grow, and that they could see themselves in me as well. Because some of those topics that you and I discussed, and thank you for providing that safe space, but it was something that I feel that we don't talk about enough, and people can relate, and we can grow from there. And I have achieved levels in my career, but I've also had to develop over time. Things did not happen overnight for me. There were times, like I said, I did live in a tough neighborhood, but I was mentoring students out there in that neighborhood. I had families out there that we were building together, and we were working together to get their kids motivated and those things. So to me, I've always had leadership positions without the title,
Yeah.
and then as I shared previously, before becoming a leader among campus and my peers, they felt safe around me. And it is because of those experiences that I was able to provide that safe space and for people to come alongside and join the mission, join the journey. And my ultimate goal is always to help someone be the best that they could be, just like you.
Yeah.
So I feel like you and I always, we've aligned a lot in that sense. And then I also listen to a lot of your guests,
Mhm.
and they talk about being latchkey kids, and they're talking about
Yeah.
formation and alignment and whatnot. And these are some of those things that growing up, I'm going to be 50 this year. So,
And you look so beautiful.
oh,
I'm
thank
looking
you.
at you right now and just
Thank
seeing
you.
your eloquence and elegance. I'm like, you're so beautiful,
Thank
Misty.
you.
Yeah,
Inside and out, and I
for sure.
appreciate that as well. And that takes a lot of confidence as a woman to say something like that too. And it's because I am proud of my journey. I can look back at the times that I was growing and I was learning or I was striving, and I've learned from many wonderful women. And it's helped me and it's shaped me. But I've also been able to, like I said, help my communities, help build scholarships, real estate, whatever, provide that leadership and that framework. However, I've also, seen the downsides to leadership when it's shaped too fast or it's too quick. And so I've over time just kept my notes and kept, observing. And I've also now what I've wanted to introduce was what I've been writing and reflecting about, and now
Mhm.
bringing that to future leaders.
And I look forward to hearing all about
Mhm.
that. But before
Yeah,
we
sure.
continue with that, I want to thank you for coming back and being vulnerable and sharing your story because, as you mentioned, it's a part of who you are and it's you honoring your story and showing people that other side of Misty that brought you to be the woman that you are today. And I would love to know how you feel when you say polished professional because sometimes people can take that as a negative thing, but there's nothing wrong with being polished because you built yourself up to be that. And I ask you because I know I felt that way when sometimes people would say, oh, you're too polished or you're too professional. So it's like, well, if you're not professional or you're too professional, people are going to have something to say no matter what.
That's true. But you know what? I'm always prepared. So part of being polished and professional, you're really saying that I'm prepared. So whether that's preparing your outfit for what you're going to wear
Mhm.
after or preparing your presentation, it's respecting and showing respect to my audience. So I'm not, I'm showing my respect. That's what I polished means to me. Now,
Mhm.
I wasn't always polished though. So, I was a little feral growing up after it. I, and just my dad was a military guy, and my mom, and growing up in that household, like I, shared, and
Right.
and different circumstances with family. Misty Cota Maple wasn't always a polished professional. It was
Mhm.
something that I've learned and grown, and it actually allows me. Being prepared will allow any professional to be able to enter a room in a space calm and being able to handle anything that comes your way. And I do my homework. So, and sometimes that may be I'm listening and observing, and I'm not speaking until I feel comfortable, and it's because I've been prepared about it beforehand.
Thanks for clarifying
Mhm.
that because I was then going to ask you what were the skills or the different things that you took on to make you feel confident in being this polished professional.
Sure. Well, I've had plenty of mentors.
Mhm.
When I first started real estate, I didn't just learn on my own. I actually had a few mentors. Actually, I had a few male mentors, and it didn't really align a little bit with how I worked or how I showed up. And I had
Mhm.
a lady really teach me a lot about sales, how to not be shy. And I had previously worked in restaurants and did those sorts of things, but I didn't come here by myself, right?
Mhm.
And I intentionally, even when my daughter was growing up And I would, bring her to church, and I was in women's ministries. I was around women that were pouring into me, and I was actually one of the youngest moms in the group. And these women were always really kind to me,
Mhm.
very accepting, and I was getting my education at the time as a young professional. I wasn't married, but they actually really treated me very kindly, and I'm still in touch with them to this day. I could actually call a mentor up, and she could pray for me. And I think it's super important to hold those relationships. And I hope to be that to the women that did that for me. I would love to be that for other women as well. And I have been an advisor at
Mhm.
USC, so I feel like I've accomplished that. So
You definitely are that, and I love how you remember those who help bring you up because you're right. We can go very far alone, but we go farther when we're in a community and when we
yes,
have support from others and just having that long time connection where they have literally seen you grow from being a young woman to the professional that you are today, and having those relationships are very important because then they remind you where it is that you come from, but you've also taken that with you because that's what you embody, that women empowerment, that mentorship. And I know we've had these conversations on voice notes and text where now, up until this day, there are still women that are very catty,
hmm
jealous, and hateful, which that's something that I did want to talk to you about today. What's your message for the women that are like that? Because I know you're all about empowerment and you've had a lot of experiences dealing with jealousy, hate, and just women that are in competition.
right. And I feel that comparison is a thief of joy. And for one, everybody's development it's different at every pace, and we're
Mhm.
all one thing about all of us is we're all unique. Everybody has different gifts. All
Right.
of us. And so like what you said, and what many of your guests have said previously, we
Mhm.
heal in community. We heal together. And for those women that it comes from a root of insecurity,
Right.
and I really know that at sometimes I've been disappointed in different circumstances, and I've had to detach myself and truly understand and pray for these women. And really, if we, usually if we have a misunderstanding, or if I feel like there's some gossip going on or negativity or trying to bring down a group, really try to come together with that woman to get a level of understanding. But if it's just something with an agenda, or if we don't align, it's okay to detach, right?
Right.
But most of the time, I'm very careful about cultivating, being around women that are really growing
Mhm.
and that really love their lives, that are passionate about, being creative, and they're supportive of one another. And I'm intentional about that. So because I feel that being around a miserable person and
Mhm.
whatnot, not only would it be able to stunt my growth, and it's just something that I wouldn't put a lot of energy into. So, but it does happen, unfortunately, especially when a woman um, likes to adorn themselves with
Mhm.
makeup, or doing their hair. Or I've always presented myself really well.
Mhm.
I was that girl the first day of kindergarten. I had rollers in my hair, right? Like
Extra since way
yeah,
back then.
extra. Yeah, I know the lime green dress that I showed up with in school, and
Matching bow and all.
yes, yes. So, and that's always been Misty after. So, and I love when a woman adorns herself and looks beautiful. I love complimenting women. I especially will tell somebody, "You look
Yeah.
wonderful. You look great. You took the time after." And it's something because perhaps it's because I feel good about myself. So when a woman is that way, it's something more or less a personal thing. Maybe she's in a bad relationship.
Mhm.
Maybe there's something going on with them. So if it's something that I can't give them resources to or provide, that's a safe space for other women to come alongside, and you pray for them. But it is something that we have the responsibility to self-care and take care of ourselves as leaders first. We have to show up and care for ourselves first in order for us to be able to care for others. And so that would be I would consider somebody that should you know be develop themselves and work on themselves, like the transformational coaching that
Mhm.
you've talked about a lot too,
Yeah,
and
and
your
thank you so
guests.
much for bringing it up because it is really the power of personal development and
Mhm.
knowing the life that we want to live and the things that we want to change. And a lot of
Mhm.
that reflection is going to come from within. And the way you handle
Mhm.
the approach of dealing with these women that are not on that same frequency of good
Mhm.
vibes and empowerment is absolutely admirable, because there's people out there that can react to it in a negative way, but you choose to react to it in a way where you wish them well.
Yes.
And you provide those tips and help as much as you can while protecting your peace. So I love that. You are an awesome leader, which leads me to, what does leadership mean to you, my friend?
So leadership to me, wow, that's a really big question. So, well, it's about taking care of the people that you're leading.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's really important. It's not anything to be taken lightly, and it just depends what context it could be in. So, but I really, what is the mission? And so, if I'm leading any sort of situation, I'm very careful about the bodies and the heartbeats that are in the
Mm-hmm.
room and making sure that it's a safe place. It's very, very, it's not something to be taken lightly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's developed. It requires good character. It requires experiences. It requires a lot of development after. So sometimes in the world where we live in, sometimes somebody may look the part, but they haven't had so many experiences,
Mm-hmm.
or, they've haven't had the maturity yet. And so some of those things that you have been through or we've been through that have
Right.
broken our hearts, or they
Mm-hmm.
shape us, they develop us. Nothing is wasted. In
Mm-hmm.
me, it's either a lesson or a blessing,
No,
right?
yep.
After
Mhm. And
so
it's that mindset
mhm,
reframe that you're choosing to see it versus looking at it like, oh, I lost this time, I
yeah,
lost this money, this energy,
mhm,
this person.
right.
So you're choosing to see the positive in it and looking at it like, what can I learn from this?
Absolutely. And then who do I not want to be like after?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and you mentioned earlier, it happens. My mother, she was a pioneer, and she was a dancer, and she owns, she's a real estate investor, but in her time, and she was, an actress in Hollywood, and
Mhm.
in her family, some people really didn't really take to that so well. There was a little bit of jealousy from aunts or
Yeah.
whatnot. So, that I saw my mom have to go through that with other women too after. And my mom had discipline to practice, to practice those moves so she could be on stage.
Right.
And for me, my discipline, I'm not a dancer, I'm not a singer, but I write, I read,
Mhm.
I actually understand different business systems and how to negotiate, or and those sorts of things. And again, different talents or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I tend to try to hone in on what I'm good at and stay in my lane. And
I
so,
love that. And
yeah,
it
yeah.
goes back to you saying everyone has their own
Mhm,
different gifts and talents. You
mhm.
just got to dig deep within to find what that is,
Absolutely.
which leads me to leadership.
Mhm.
So I've been learning about this microwave
Oh,
slow
yes.
cooker
Yes.
leadership ever since you presented the idea to me. And I would love for you to elaborate on the differences and just the framework behind the two, what your concept is and your belief, because it's good stuff.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So, when you think of a microwave versus a slow cooker, think about how a microwave heats food. I mean,
Right.
it's fast, and it's something that you're going to warm up, but the food probably gets hard, or it's
Yeah.
not as,
Not the
it's
greatest.
not the greatest, but and it heats unevenly because
Yeah.
the way a microwave heats, it actually agitates the water molecules, and it'll heat unevenly. So sometimes
Are
you'll
you
get
a
hot spots. Yeah,
scientist too? Is that one of your
I'm just
gifts?
I just want to make sure that you understand. I know how a microwave heats
No, I
versus
love it.
a slow cooker. Actually, will cook. It's long. It cooks over time.
Right.
It actually cooks from within. Actually, and it
Mhm.
makes it more, juicier, longer. You're flavorful. And honestly, why I chose that too, I used a slow cooker a lot in college when I was single mom, and I always wanted my daughter and I to have nutritious meals.
Mhm.
And so I cooked slow cooked meals a lot though. So I love my slow cooker though. So, but how I use that in leadership, I saw a lot of, I attribute a lot of leaders that would just start out really fast, and then they burn fast really quickly though. They either were put in a position before they were ready for it, before or they were installed, they were given a title, But it didn't hold a lot of weight versus, and to me, that's a microwave leader
Okay.
and versus someone that's been there, flavorful, rich, long, developed, and disciplined, and that will last and that produces legacy. It's something that you're like, wow, I want more of that. And people are attracted to it though. So right now in this culture where we see everything right now, everybody wants something fast. It's
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, it's social media. You want to be an influencer, people, and that's wonderful. That's great, but sometimes and we're talking about comparison. That
Yes.
may not be the reality
Mm-hmm.
after. So and what slow cooker is more or less, it's about forming relationships in leadership. It's about those bonds. It's about those experiences. So when a slow cooker leadership enters a situation, they are there to stay. They've probably built these relationships. They came from the inside out. They have actually, it's that intern that came in and is now running the company at some point though, but hopefully they've actually entered other places so they can actually learn. So I think it's developed over time.
Makes sense. And I love how you explain them both. Now, would you say that there's a difference in which leader is
Mm,
more qualified to lead
yes.
between the two?
And I
If so, which one and
right.
why?
Because well what I've seen is that when microwave leadership, people get harmed during that time. So for example, when a leader is installed, let's say I for an organization that I previously worked on, we had a leader there. I was in my early 20s and she was in her 30s. And she was very sharp, very strong-minded, quick-minded, but she was an immature leader. And so she took things a lot very personal. She actually was really jealous of other women too. So she would be jealous of what you were wearing. So
And would
and
she make it known, or were
mhm.
these things that you just caught on
She
to?
would make it known or
Oh,
through
wow.
her other support. Yeah, so they
Hmm.
would be talked to or whatnot. And so that kind of there was a so over time, what happened is that a lot of people ended up either exiting the organization, being fired, or it was a lot of tension in meetings. It was very toxic,
Pretty hostile environment
very
then.
hostile
Yep.
environment. And so what I learned as a young supervisor at the time, I would do my job, but I dressed very I didn't, I just dressed very long sweaters, long skirts. I'm not there to look cute. I'm here to make money and do my job, right? After I might still look cute, but
Yeah. You're like
so
that too, but that's not the
that's
priority.
right. I'm here to work and I detached a little bit, did my job. I wasn't trying to win her favor so much because I felt like people were just getting beat up left and right. So even other directors would come to me after and was like, Misty, how are you surviving here? How are you doing so well? And I said, well, because and I let them know because I actually, detached and if I know I'm on someone's shit list, I'm not going to sit there and and
Yeah.
try to sit there and so you can continue to beat me up
And
right
that's a
after. So
skill to build, because you have to
yeah,
have the confidence and the grit to be like, I'm not what you portray me to
no,
be.
not at
I know
all.
who I am.
We actually had that conversation. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we did. So I'm 28 at the time, and then I think I ended up having to ask her about just a small question of where she wanted a wreath hung up in the plaza, and then it turned to she said, Missy, come in here. And she basically proceeded to tell me that I would never be successful anywhere after, and I had an attitude problem. And this is after I had done my best to really, I was performing really well, but she was trying to, just whatever, my spirit, right? And
How did you
so,
feel in that
oh, at that
moment?
moment, so I just basically told her because I had already, seen so many people that time just been hurt by this leader, and I finally said, "You know what?" I told her, "I'm 28 years old. I'm not 22 like the other younger managers, and I've been successful everywhere, just not here because you made the rules here." As a matter of fact, I told her, I said, "I don't expect this place to, be like Disneyland, but this organization is very sick. Your staff are here and they're sick and it's unhealthy. And and it's not something that I agree with.
Damn, you
After
gave her a big
I
reality
did.
check.
I did.
Continue.
So then she actually stared me down. It looked like it was a lot of tension. I thought my job was done. And then somebody interrupted, the assistant city manager. He interrupted, said, "Hey!" And so after, and I, left. And then I went back to my office. I called a colleague and she said, "I told you to keep your mouth shut." And I said, "I know, but I just, at some point, she directly, I couldn't let her say that to me or pour that into me,
Yeah.
that. And so I had already been in multiple leadership positions. So in any case, long story short, uh, I had to, end up having a talk with her. She actually showed me a little bit more respect after that, to tell you
For
the
sure. And I
truth,
think a
you
lot
know?
of it too, it's
Mm,
because no one stood up to her like that. And just like your colleague said, when you ended up reaching out, they had mentioned to you, you shouldn't have said anything because everyone was so used to not saying anything. So the moment someone says something and stands up to her, she's like, whoa, what is going
yeah.
on?
So then she did, and she actually would even mention my names in meetings. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not fired right after. So any case, about a year and a half later, she had to resign because became known. It was evident that her performance was just not what was supposed to be there. So it was really traumatic for us because I have colleagues that actually ended up leaving, and I'm still
Mhm.
friends to this day. They're
Yeah.
working in other organizations and thriving in there. And meanwhile, so she had left and again, and she went to another organization and it didn't quite work out. And that's one of the examples that I've
Yeah.
seen from that. So that, and not to say that I it's just that hopefully she got the maturity at some point. We all learn
Right.
from our mistakes, but I do see leadership. You asked me earlier about it, and I think it's really important because especially when people's livelihoods are every day, they're coming into work and they're depending on you and you're leading an
Mhm.
organization. Nobody wants to come in there feeling sick or
Right.
stressed out. They're doing their best. And if not, coach them. You're
Right.
not here to embarrass people.
Mhm.
And so it was wrong.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that did happen and I live to see another day. And I ended up and I can keep telling stories if you want to give me I want me to give you another one, but yeah.
And and that's a really, it sounds like that was a very pivotal moment in your leadership lane.
Mhm.
One, because you spoke up and stood in your truth, building that confidence and just truly standing in what it is that you believe and being a great example to your other colleagues. Like, y'all better speak up too,
Mhm.
because the more we stand together and stand up for what's right, the more we change the culture of this hostile environment to something more positive and empowering where people come into work feeling like that's my leader, that's the person that's going
Mhm.
to support me and be
Absolutely.
there for me. So how did this end up leading into a new leadership lane for you? Because you did mention you were in a supervisory role. So
Mhm.
did you end up getting a promotion?
Yeah, so my direct boss ended up taking that city manager position. So
Okay.
and then I was already doing really quite well, but what happened is that I had another supervisor that came in and almost kind of replaced that toxicity. So we ended
That's
up
a good thing.
yeah. So well, no, she had a little bit of that too.
Okay.
So what so and this was about 2010 and I was already done and it's right before I got into real estate or whatnot. So I had left the city anyways. And a lot of my colleagues asked me, Missy, why didn't you say anything? Because of this new
Mhm.
supervisor. And I said, this can't be just one person speaking up the entire
Right.
time, right? So I guess what happened after they had to get some consultants in and whatnot, I came back 5 years later as a commissioner, uh, fast forward. And so here I am now, this person's boss, somewhat. So,
Wow.
so you never know,
Yep, the tables
the
turned.
tables turned
Right.
after. And so and I could tell she seemed a little bit uncomfortable with it. She actually retired shortly after, and I always told myself you never know what could happen down the line. So the situation took care of itself over time.
Right, absolutely, for sure. And it seems like you were always in a putting yourself in a winning position because of your natural determination, open heart, and not only looking out for yourself, but looking out for others. What would you say are some challenges that the microwave leadership people deal with that maybe a slow cooker leadership wouldn't deal with? Because you seem like you're a slow cooker
Yes.
leadership. Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that a lot of times microwave leadership, they have to manipulate situations a little bit after if it's on social media or whatnot, and it's more about optics than it
Okay.
is about what truly is. And so a microwave leadership is more about performance versus slow cooker leadership is something that's lived.
Mhm.
So it's over time. So I'm not performing. This truly is who
Oh,
I
no,
am.
I know. I know that. I
Yeah.
believe you know.
So, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a perfect person or any case like that though. So, but in a microwave leadership, you probably wouldn't trust them as much because you're probably thinking, well, they don't have my best interest. They're climbers, social climbers,
Yeah.
and like you said, I do protect my staff. I did,
Mhm.
I did take responsibility for if something went wrong or if there was, a coaching or mentoring, and there was a lot of toxicities and a lot of gatekeeping that happens and it happens all over. And it's that ceiling sometimes that we
Mhm.
as women or and young staffers are coming into these organizations that have been operating in a certain way, and then the system gets threatened. And so what happens is that, just for me, even walking into something, I don't know if it's my aura or my presence. And I have no intention of taking over. They get afraid I'm going to take something over, and it's like,
It's
I,
your
yeah.
confidence when you walk in, and I think people get a feel for it too, just like when they feel that negative energy,
Mhm.
they also feel the good energy, and they're like, "Dang, look at her walking in, looking all good and
True.
feeling confident." And if they've heard about you, good things,
Mhm.
you're like, "Better."
Yeah. True.
Then
True.
they're gonna feel your presence even more.
Absolutely. But on the other end, I've had jealous people sort of smear me a bit, right?
Yeah,
And
because they wanna be like you.
right, so they've done that, and this is and it's disappointed me, especially somebody that I've was older than me, thinking, in a position where they're supposed to be mentoring and
Mhm.
feeling that way, and and it's an insecurity, and it's a threat to a system, and it's maybe uh, I don't know if it's the new leaders coming in, because I'm not saying that I'm going to be the leader, the change. It's the next leaders. I
Right.
want to equip. That's why I created this framework so that I would be able to teach it to help the new leaders come in, because we now have to, it is our time. We have at this time, and especially I've listened to the past podcasts and, things that are going on, and there's a lot of
Right.
uncertainty and fear. And I understand that. I'm listening and I empathize with
Mhm.
everybody. And I feel like, well, I can't be the only leader on the baseball field playing, the outfield and the
Mhm.
second base, first base. I need you guys to come in and help. For a long time, I've been working, and I was attending the city council meetings, school board meetings, and things like that. And my friends would be like, "Oh no, Misty, you go ahead and do that for us," right?
Mhm.
And so, what I'm really encouraging is for people to get involved. I really want you to get involved. Go to those meetings and become in those positions, become those leaders now, because sometimes there's leaders there that have been there 10, 20 years.
Right.
They've been there, they've been installed, and it's not really truly reflective of
Mhm.
the community. This is our community.
It's just some people aren't willing to step up, so that's what they got, and they stay in those positions within the system.
They do, and they think that, well, I guess, they don't feel like they should be included, or
Mhm.
they're purposely not included sometimes. And you have every right to be there just as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
And we all, and maybe I didn't start off, with the silver spoon in my mouth. I had to take a bus to
Mhm.
school. I had to go do all those things. I lived in an alley,
Yeah.
and
But
I
that's what
Mhm,
makes you who you
mhm.
are today. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I think that actually why I wanted to live in South Central LA, well, I didn't I going to USC, going to business school, UCLA didn't have a business school. So, living in South Central, people thought, wow, why are she going to take her daughter there? But there was opportunity there
Mhm.
for us. And actually, I knew that one day I would want to come back and take care of and be that light for that community, actually. So I intentionally, and while I was there,
Yeah.
that's what we were doing out there, and we enjoyed it. And so So that kind of led to that. So I'm in a place right now, Valaery, in
Yeah.
2026 that I'm very excited. I plan to, well, I had shared with you just continuing my real estate practice. I
Right.
love doing what I love that. I have those hours now that I
Okay.
can
Yeah.
I can do my projects and write. And I will say that I have gone through ups and downs before, and where I stopped writing and I stopped that. And right now it's more important for us as Latinas to
Yes.
find our voice and to use our voice.
Mhm.
And so I may not be, that person that is out there and doing a particular work, but I can support her and I can be there for her there. So, and that's why, and so that's why I brought this framework out, and it's something that, I'm excited to bring across.
And it's a really great framework because would you say that your goal is to develop through this framework more slow cook leadership people, but showing them the idea of, hey, fast and easy ain't
Mhm.
always the way?
Correct.
Because eventually, in the long game, would you say the ones that stand tall and last the longest and are more authentic in being that leadership are the slow cookers versus the microwave ones?
Absolutely. And we're talking about legacy right now.
Right.
You want something that lasts, that's beyond you, that's going to
Mhm.
last beyond you.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about. It's about the long run. It's
Mhm.
about the marathon that you said.
Yes.
And so that to me, yes, absolutely.
Now, share with me, since you are a slow cook leader,
Mhm.
what are some characteristics that you have that define that leadership? So that those out there that feel like they may be a leader or want to be a leader can start looking within themselves to ask, do I have this? Is this something that I need to build upon and inspiring more slow cooker leaders
Well,
out there?
sure. Well, I've had to develop my leadership over time. So obviously, I shared with you, I have empathy, I've had
Mhm.
experiences, and honesty,
Right.
and not to a fault, but I'm definitely, people do trust that I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
something that's going to benefit
You
you.
are a follow through
Follow through,
woman.
right? And so previously, I had went through all the leadership classes and whatnot, and but I didn't go through the transactional leadership until about 2011. I took some coaching. I went through some really some times, and my girlfriend pulled me aside, said, "I really think that you could benefit from this." So
Mhm.
it was a program, and I actually I was an hour late to the program the first
Okay.
day, right? Because I resisted it.
Mhm.
The second day, I was an hour early because I really felt a value to it.
Wow,
And
instant change right
instant change,
there.
right? Because they were teaching me more about how I was operating, and at the time I felt like I was operating in victim,
Mhm.
and I wasn't really, and I was letting other people win and whatnot, and I wasn't taking on the leadership roles that I should have. I stepped into, and what it showed me was how people could get hurt by me not taking that leadership role. So,
Right.
and through one of the exercises that we had there, so what I at that particular session that weekend just changed me, and I promised myself that I would step up
And
after.
what postponed you to step into that leadership role? Because this has been something,
Mhm.
Missy, that's been ingrained in you from the get down,
Right.
from them hood days,
Sure.
that you've
Yeah.
naturally had that leadership. You've been having it.
Mhm.
So when it came time for you to step up, did you feel
Mhm.
like it was maybe some imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
self belief, aside from the victim mindset?
You know what, Valaery? That's a really great question. There was an erosion that happened at the time.
Okay.
So I was in a relationship that wasn't the right relationship for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
So, and I was in transition.
Mm.
And so I just didn't feel like I was in alignment of anything. So a lot of things going on there.
Yeah.
But at the time, though, it was the perfect opportunity for growth,
Right.
because when you are kind of at that point, you can build up. And I was like, well, what do I want my life to be like at this point? So and I actually took more coaching. I took a week-long seminar, and really delve into those transactional, read the books and did the work
What
after.
a
Mhm,
transformational moment for
mhm,
you. Y'all,
mhm,
this is proof right here that you can be in a toxic relationship, a toxic environment. But Misty, you really pointed out a really great question of what do I want with my life now?
Mhm.
Because sometimes when we're in a relationship, that's the only identity we have is serving that person, being a girlfriend, a wife, whatever the case may be. But since you realize, nah, this is no longer good for me, it's time to reinvent myself. Who do I want to be? And even though I'm sure you might have been scared, you still decided to jump in and take that action to start building the life you love. And look at you here
Oh,
now
thank
doing the
you.
damn thing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
you get the tools, but I will say though, it takes time to develop those tools. So I had those tools, and now I had the tools to develop myself over that period
Yeah.
of time. And I totally, I grew from there, and I said, who do I want to be? And I'm going to show up as her every single day.
Yeah.
And that is, and that is it. That's what I
Right.
chose. So I'm going to be the strong businesswoman, mother, a leader, and that's who I say no to those things that are not going to feed into who I am to become after. So having a strong sense of identity, but I did have that time where I did feel an erosion of who I was, and I stopped writing. I was, I just and but the coaching and pouring in, and it was beautiful. So step by step after, and it was okay. So then I finished my master's degree there and became a realtor after I wanted always to sell homes at the
Yeah.
time. And, that's a huge process. That's the biggest transaction someone's ever going to make in their life.
Right.
Right. And investment. And my dad had done real estate. So I asked him, Dad, I went to business school. Do you think I should be a realtor after? He said, Misty, you talk to everybody. You'd be great at it, though.
Yeah.
So, and that was, I was nervous, and I loved doing that. And then they had taught me how to do real estate. They just basically, oh, you got to cold call or door knock. And I said, no, I don't feel like I'm connecting with people that way. I'm a relationship person. I'm going to go back to the community.
Mhm.
I'm going so ended up co-founding a nonprofit, Love La Mirada, which is a service day,
Okay.
and it serves the community. And I, became a commissioner a few years into that, and it just sort of evolved. My leadership came back, my confidence came back after, but it was putting myself and being of service, and the business came, the trust came because I went to what I knew. And so it was to help others. And through that, and having these groups and mentoring other women or children and raising scholarships in the eBell Club, I've been
Yeah.
doing that for 10 years. After it just, it helped me and it shaped me again to being that leader and having those women that entrusted me to do so.
I
So,
love that. Thank
mhm.
you so much for sharing that. And now that you bring up the eBell, we got to show some love to the eBell Club ladies. So
Yes, thank
shout
you.
out to Candace. Candace
Hi,
really stood
Candace.
out to me so much just because of her constant communication, and we stayed in touch and
Good.
stuff. And she's a really awesome individual. So I would love for you to shed some light on what the La Mirada eBell Club is to you, because I know you're a leader
Yes.
in that community, and these women look up to you.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. So that's an important position too. This has been a club that's been around for 70 years, and the La Mirada eBell women, I remember when I was a young staffer at the city, and I would meet them, and they were really, really prominent creme de la crop women. And
That sounded so bougie.
they were, though. I mean, one lady I remember, Mary Abbott, she had 6 Christmas trees in her house, and she told me, I said, oh, one day I'm going to have 6 Christmas trees now. But you talk about me being extra. So in any case, so they were so sweet to me, these ladies, and they were very, very careful about their group. My grandmother and her sisters were part of the Pico Rivera Women's Club.
Okay.
So my grandmother always got her little outfits ready and really was, loved that service club. So it was a natural thing for me
Runs in the family.
right, to be a part of La Mirada eBell. It was 10 years ago, and I was at the Veterans Hall, and I saw some ladies, and they said, come on, join us. And the group at the time was really, it was getting smaller and smaller because a lot of the members were getting older and whatnot too. So, so it was kind of a transition at the time. But invited a bunch of gals to come in, and we've been going. And some women, will come for a season and they've,
Mhm.
aren't able to, or there's different things that go on. And some women are helping from a different community. But I believe if you help one child, you help them all,
Right.
right? So, and we really work on providing a safe space. We have guest speakers. We work with the city, and this is our 70th year. And if you think about it, I mean, if how many children that these women have collectively as a group,
Yeah.
right, together and in friendship and in service, how many lives they have impacted and showed up for.
Right.
And because through their scholarships, through their mentoring program, they support the youth and government program, and it's about getting students involved in local government.
Mhm.
And it's just something that I'm honored to carry through.
Right.
I'm always, looking for the next leaders to carry it on. So,
Wonderful. I love that. And then for to stay informed with this, is there a website or would you prefer them to follow like the Facebook page or the Instagram page?
yes, we have a Facebook, and now we
Okay.
have an Instagram page this year.
I'll
So
make sure to link all of that in the
absolutely.
description
Thank you.
box for sure. Of course. You seem so refreshed, re-energized, and just ready to take on 2026. What would you say are some things that have sparked this new Misty? You've always been a badass. You've always been a chingona. And even since you've been on last time, you were very inspirational, very relatable. And I like to share with you that since I've been doing the Valaery Rose show, like you mentioned, this will be the 17th episode. Your video, episode 5, was the most viewed out of all of them up to this day. So this better be the next
Oh, good.
second high viewed episode.
Otherwise, I'll have to bring you guys some tea next time. So
Seriously.
yes. So what would you say the difference? Maybe turning 50. I think though, really just like reflecting on what the next half of my life's going to be. And
Yes.
I'm so excited for that. My mom had a big birthday
Yeah, I
recently
know.
too.
Happy belated birthday to
Yes,
her.
happy birthday, Mom. And she's going to be with me. We're going to Cabo. So
Ooh,
we're excited. And my
nice.
husband and anybody who wants to come along.
So you over here offering this Cabo trip. I'm like, girl, is you paying for the trip? You're like, no. You're like, disclaimer, she is not. But if you want to join her, you got to make sure to look at all of her links and all of that great stuff. But Misty, before we close out today, do you have any final messages that you just want to speak some truth, wisdom into the audience, people of the world, whoever may see this video?
Well, thank you again for those of you that have tuned in to watch this episode. And like I said the last time, my last message was that you can be anybody that you would like to be after. And I want you to just take your development seriously. If you feel like there's a delay in your life or you don't feel like you're that leader yet, it may not be a delay, it's development, and trust the process. And be looking out for my Slow Cook Leadership Tune In after. We're going to be doing programs. This is going to be a framework that's going to be for schools. It could be for civic groups and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to just sharing more about that and more tea.
Awesome. I know when you say more tea, that means stay tuned for the next episode of Misty Rose Cota Maple. Did I say that right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Like,
yes,
which
that's
one
my
is it?
whole
Okay.
name.
Awesome. So I know you're definitely going to be coming back on because I love your energy. You're a
you.
friend of mine. You're super amazing. And you have so much wisdom to share. And I feel like there's got to be a whole 10 seasons just for you.
Absolutely,
10
girl.
episodes in one season for you. Now, before we close out, my friend, you know the deal like last time. Elevate in 60 is 3 questions that I ask the guest. And for each question, you want to answer it under 60 seconds. You ready?
Okay.
You're like, damn, what
Let's
questions
go.
these
I know.
All right, question number 1. What's one goal you have for 2026?
2026, turn 50 and continue to be fabulous
Ooh,
and not be apologetic about it at all.
I love that.
Yes.
Love the confidence.
Thank you.
I really admire that you are proudly owning your age because I've seen a lot of videos on social media where women are like, don't ask me my age and they don't want to share it. But this shows power that we need to embrace as we age and gain wisdom and experience. And there's nothing wrong with it. So
I love
thank you
it.
so much for that, Misty. Number 2, what are you building right now that no system can remove?
I'm building my confidence. So, and that comes from experience, and
Right.
confidence comes from God. No system can remove that. And it's something that's formed, and it's something that can't be taken away. My experiences. So,
Awesome. Great answer. And the final question, I feel a little full of myself with this one. I've never asked a question about me, but because I admire you and I have love for you and I know that you've provided different opportunities for me to just really showcase who I am, especially when being at the eBell Club meeting. And I admire you, and I know that you'll always give me real, raw, authentic feedback. And I look forward to developing myself into a slow cook leader and gaining knowledge just like you. So, my final question for you is you've always spoken well about me and have said that I'm going places in life. So, what do you see in me as a leader?
Girl, when I met you, I remember, well, I've seen you a few times, I've interacted, but the strength that you embodied and when you led a group of women and I remember the dress you were wearing and I remember the bow in your hair and I remember how beautiful you looked, right? And so I thought, wow, I knew you were something, right? And then I see you doing this podcast and I see your journey and you and I have been, forming our relationship,
Right.
right? And for me, you not only are you're empathetic, you use your experiences to put a platform for women, but you're elevating them and yourself along the way. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this. But to me, you remind me of the Latina Oprah, right?
You know, you did tell me that one time.
I did. So
You've always told me so
Yeah.
many beautiful things. That's why I'm like,
Mhm.
I have to ask her because I've heard
Mhm.
people say
Mhm.
different things, but every time I've seen you, it's always something beautiful. And you told me that one time, you're like, you remind me of the Latina Oprah.
I did tell you that.
You did tell me that, yeah. Or you've said things like,
Mhm.
oh, this girl's going places. And I
Mhm.
remember, I
Mhm.
admire you so much. But when I hear those things, I'm like, I have to ask her because she's such a chingona. She's a
Mhm.
leader. We've had a lot of similar experiences
Mhm.
growing up. And I just wanted to like pick your brain and be like,
Yeah.
damn, what do you see in me,
You
Misty?
see, and I'm still consistent. So I really believe that. And one thing, whether you agree or whatnot with her, but Oprah, what she did, I felt like she was using her platform to just heal herself and heal others through that. And I feel that you're doing this, and as you grow, I want you to keep doing this. I want you to keep growing and building, and whether it's the podcast or whatever you do, Valaery, that you are an impact. You're making an impact already. So I already saw that star quality in you from the beginning. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. I love you so much.
Love you too.
I truly appreciate that. Thank you. All right, everyone. We are already coming to an end with this lovely episode. You know, Misty's going to be coming back because she's got a lot of tea to spill, a lot of wisdom. And I look forward to hearing more about how her beautiful concept of the microwave and slow cooker leadership develops throughout time. So I want to remind you all to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with anyone that can benefit from it. Make sure to look at the description box because I will be putting all of Misty's information, whether it's her social media, eBell Club information, and her real estate business. So any real estate needs, make sure to check her out. She is your girl. And I will see you in the next video.